labor laws and labor numbers showing employers adding about 120,000 new jobs in March. Now, that's about half the pace we saw over the last 3 months. It was enough to bring the national unemployment rate down to 8.2%, but that's partly due to the number of workers dropping out of the labor force. That has some critics comparing President Obama to President Jimmy Carter in his re-election year. Christy Setzer, she is the president of New Heights Communications and former spokesperson for Vermont Governor Howard Dean. And Ford O'Connell is the chairman of the Civic Forum PAC and a former outreach director for John McCain's presidential campaign. Good to see both of you.
Good to see you as well.
Ford, I'm going to start with you. Connect the dots. President Obama's re-election efforts compared to those of President Carter. And will the outcome differ or be the same?
Well, the similarities are certainly striking. Like Jimmy Carter, President Obama is weak on Iran. He's weak on the economy, and he's his own worst enemy in his re-election bid. What the president doesn't seem to grasp is that as long as the U.S. has the highest corporate tax rate in the world, as long as we have rising gas prices, and there's a fear that he could slap greater regulations and taxes on business owners, he's going to be his own worst enemy, and he's going to have a tough re-election fight.
All right, Christy, I'll go to you then. If unemployment, we'll go with that one. If unemployment hovering around 8.2% come November, will the Republicans' claim of job growth being too anemic still be political strategy or harsh reality for the president?
No, it will certainly be political strategy. Look, when the jobs numbers came out on Friday, Republicans were practically jumping for joy that the March numbers were not as robust as the 200,000 plus jobs we saw in January and February. But the fact is we've still had more jobs created in the last 8 months than all of the 8 years of the Bush presidency. And anybody who tells you that we're not going in the right direction either doesn't remember the Bush presidency or actually just wants Obama to fail.
Well, Ford, I'll pick up there that what Christy's saying is that President Obama's 3-month average for 2012 is better than the job growth performer President George W. Bush is talking about that he saw when he was reelected in 2004. So is it possible that election history will repeat itself, or still do you maintain that President Obama's job is in jeopardy?
President Obama's job is certainly in jeopardy. The unemployment rate under President Bush was never this high. It was never 8.2%. I don't think that the administration quite understands how concerned folks on Main Street are. If you discount for baby boomers and you factor in those who are not looking for work, it's actually 10.5%. The president is in trouble, and he knows it, and he wants to put the blame on everyone but himself. First, it was President Bush. Now it's the weather in the latest jobs report. Then it's oil speculators. What he's got to do is he's got to take a realistic look at his own policies and say, how can I better help improve the economy? If he does that, he'll win re-election. If he doesn't, guess what? We're going to have a new president, come November.
Christy, so is a good enough economy going to be enough for President Obama to be reelected?
Well, what people want to see is that things are going in the right direction, and they have seen that. I mean, again, as I've said, we've created 4 million new jobs in the last 2 years alone. We've seen something like 25 straight months of economic growth. People do believe that the economy is recovering because, in fact, it is. Now, contrast this to the Republicans' record of fighting job creation. For example, just this week in Wisconsin, we saw Governor Scott Walker roll back an equal pay law for women. I don't think that's the kind of policy or change that that voters are looking for when they come November.
Christy, you can spin this any way you want. The bottom line is Americans are hurting, and that's what the president faces. You can blame everybody. You can talk about Governor Scott. You can talk about anybody else. You got to take a long, hard look in the mirror. And if you change your policies and you become more pro-growth, you're going to win re-election.
So Ford is good enough, not good enough? Is that what you're saying?
That's absolutely right. Good enough is not good enough because the perception on Main Street is nothing's changing.
Go ahead, Christy.
I would disagree. I would say that the perception is that things are in fact recovering, and that is exactly why President Obama is going to face, frankly, pretty easy re-elect in November.
Well,
got to disagree with you as always, Christy. I mean, you're going to roll the dice and you're going to find out, and I'll take my chances. Look, Republicans would rather have the economy improve than win the White House. But you guys are your own worst enemy. Come November. I'm just telling you, come November, President Obama is going to be out of a job and probably pumping his own gas.
Look, voters are seeing through this economic ruse that Republicans are playing right now. If you ask about half of them, they will say that Republicans would rather see the economy fail than see President Obama succeed, that they are actually rooting for an economic sabotage. So all of this sort of, rooting for failure I think is not going to play very well with the voters.
Well, we're not rooting for failure. We're rooting for America, and the president is the biggest roadblock to his own reelection bid. And frankly, Americans are going to let him know that at the ballot box in November. So if he doesn't change his ways and adopt more pro-growth policies, like fixing the tax code and simplifying it, this is going to continue, and he's going to continue to get worried. You got to remember, how many presidents have lost their reelection bid? What, 4 in the last 100 years? It's all in his favor. It's up to him. That's all I'm telling you. So there you go.
That's right.
So, Christy, were you going to add something to this?
I mean, I think that I've sort of said what I want to say. There's a clear contrast right now between President Obama's record of job creation. He believes that the way that we keep this going is what he's already been doing. And in addition, we need to create fairer tax laws so that millionaires and big corporations are paying their fair share. Instead, Republicans would like to give big tax cuts to millionaires and see people on Main Street suffer. I just think that they're going about it all wrong, and that, you know, voters are pretty wise to this.
Well, at the end of the day, the voter gets the last word. But Christy, for now, you get the last word because I gave Ford the first word in this particular segment. We keep it all fair and balanced, you know? All right, guys. I got to go. Thank you so much. Good to see both of you. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you.